This entire spying program has been done in secret, and it was done intentionally, and the electorate, the people of the country, have been kept in the dark. They've been lied to and basically manipulated to accept the narrative coming out of the White House and the intelligence community.
This is Bill Binney. He's a former employee of the NSA turned whistleblower. Now he's speaking out about how the agency he used to work for is spying on Americans.
A lot of people are fearful that down the line we could become 1984, we could become the ultimate surveillance state. To what extent are we already that in the United States?
We passed that a long time ago.
How so?
Yeah. Well, I mean, 1984 just looked at visual things, you know, you just watch where you're going and all that. Now, not only are we doing that, we're looking at seeing what you're saying, while you're doing it, right? And seeing where you're going and what you're all about, whether or not you have medical problems or legal problems or anything like that, any kind of influences that might affect you. But it's also looking at your community and who you're collaborating with, and maybe what you're collaborating on, and also what you're planning, and also getting into how you think. Because after you accumulate a lot of data about a person and their activities throughout day to day in their life, you can begin to understand how they think about things. And you can begin to predict how they'll react in some cases.
A lot of people believe nothing to fear, nothing to hide. What do you say to those people, and what's the danger of that mentality?
I only have two things to say to them. The first one is that's a great quote from Joseph Goebbels. He said exactly the same thing, Hitler's minister of propaganda. And the second thing is that what you think about what you're doing is totally irrelevant. You do not matter in the equation. You're not important. The only important thing is what the government thinks of you and what you're doing.
Now, what do you think when you look at the younger generation now that basically completely broadcasts every moment of their lives on social media, on various platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat? What do you say to those young people, and what should they be thinking of down the line?
What would I say to them? I would say, first of all, don't do it. Don't put your information out there like that. Because you can never, it's out there permanently. So that when an employer wants to research what you've said and done on Facebook or anyplace else, that's available for them to look at. So it could influence whether or not you get a job, you know, the kind of activity you're permitted to engage in, that kind of thing. So that's very dangerous stuff. You should not do that. I mean, anything you put out there, you should assume that it is now going to be visible by everybody in the public.
What can we as private citizens do to take a stand against domestic spying?
So every time a representative or from the House or a senator comes to have a town meeting in your area to solicit your vote, you need to stand up and embarrass them and make sure and put them on the spot. What are you doing about this spying? Why aren't you stopping it? Why aren't you living up to your oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution? And then just find out what they answer and just push them and put them out in the spotlight and put them on the spot. That's one way. The other way is to email them, call them, Twitter, send a Twitter to them. It's the idea of taking it on from many directions at once.
You're very vocal when it comes to speaking out against the NSA. To what extent are you fearful?
No, I don't care. I'm out here. I have one purpose in life. I only have so much time left. My time is going to be spent going after them so that they'll start doing the right thing again and we can get our country back.
What grade do you give President Obama, who is a constitutional law professor himself, when it comes to privacy and data collection and all these things we're talking about?
F. I give him an F. He's an absolute failure at defending. His oath of office is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. And he's not doing any of that. He and all of those people down in Congress are violating the public trust. That's the trust we put in them, with them, and give them to do the right thing.
How do you compare him to his predecessor, George W. Bush? Actually,
he's doubling down on what George Bush did, so I think he's doing worse. I mean, George Bush wanted to capture terrorists so he could torture them and get information. Obama simply wants to kill them and anybody that comes close to them with drone strikes.